Okay, so for those who care, we're going to do some pack opening now. We really haven't looked at the set at all, so we're going to open up every pack. We're going to discuss the cards in the pack. We're going to talk about the rare. We're going to try to do like a little in-depth pack opening here. So for people who don't like pack openings, this video is not for you, but please leave a like anyway. Comment down below if you like the core set or not. And without further ado, we're going to crack some packs. So our first pack here contains a common wild card, which we're okay with right now. We have a lot of them, but we don't really know what's in this set yet. Mind Rod is the old standby. It's not super great, but there's some people who like it. Unholy Indenture, I will say this has some of the prettiest art. I bet this card foil is gorgeous. The card itself, 2 and a black. When an enchant creature dies, it returns to the battlefield under your control with a 1/1 counter. It's okay. I wish it was more than just creature at this point, but that's fine. Rabid Bite, an old standby removal spell for green. Target creature you control deals power to a target creature you don't control. I do think Rabid Bite could be very good. I think there's a lot of good green creatures. There are some really strong creature decks right now. Aerial Assault, 2 and a white. Destroy tapped creature. You gain 1 life for each creature with flying you control. That's okay, I suppose. Unchained Berserker, 1 and a red. Protection from white. Has +2/+0. Okay. While it's attacking. So as we see here, Wizards is going back to the core set, having making cards probably have protection from its opposing color on the back of the card, and probably there's going to be cards that are like destroy X and X color, which will be enemy colors from that color. That's kind of cool to see. It's a throwback to some older Magic. Blight Beetle, 1 and a black. Insect, pro green, very interesting. Creatures your opponent control can't have 1/1 counters on them. Hmm. So that kind of counters, I think, Hydroid Krasis, because Hydroid Krasis can't come into play with the counters. I'd have to look at the official ruling on this. And let's see what our first rare from 2020 is. Hanged Executioner, 2 and a white for a 1/1 flying spirit. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 flying spirit. Okay, so for 3 mana, you're getting 2 bodies. 4 or 3 and a white, exile the Hanged Executioner, exile target creature. Okay, so for overall 7 mana, you're getting a flyer, a 1/1 flyer, and an exile spell. This does seem awfully slow to me, but depending on how the format shakes up, being able to make 2 flyers so you have a beater, flying usually means you have a little bit of evasion, and being able to sack it when you need it, hopefully to kill a creature or exile a creature, that does seem pretty good. Um, it depends on how the meta shakes out. I'm going to say that a lot today, I'm sure. But overall, I feel like this card's not terrible. It does seem kind of slow, maybe a little too cute. I could be wrong. Here we go to pack 2. Convolute, 2 and a blue instant. Counter unless they pay 4. Okay, so it's kind of like a little more mana. What is it? Not mana drain. Mana leak. I don't necessarily love it. I think for 3 mana you just have hard counters. There's not probably going to be too many tempo decks in standards. This probably won't be where you want it. Sorcerer of the Fang, 1 and a black. 5 and a black tap. Deals 2 damage to an opponent or planeswalker. This thing could absolutely be a limited all-star. Being able late in the game to just ping for 2 could definitely win a game. Lavakin Brawler, 3 and a red for a 2/4 elemental warrior. Whenever Lavakin Brawler attacks, it gets +1/+0 for every elemental you control. That seems really bad, speaking that its base stats require you to have a ton of elementals already, because the 2/4 is kind of weak. Silverback Shaman, 3 and a green. Trample, when it dies, draw a card. Okay, that's not terrible. Um, Constructed play, not so much. Sealed and limited, absolutely. A 5 mana 5/4 that tramples is great. Drawing cards when it dies is good too. Daybreak Chaplain, I think a card from the last core set. One and a white for a human cleric or a 1/3 lifelinker. Very simple, very straightforward. We already have it. 4 and 2 blue, Captivating Gyre, sorcery. Return 3 target creatures to their owner's hands. I do like this card, but I feel like at 6 mana you'd rather just be playing a board wipe at that point, especially because we have things like, what is it, time wipe, time warp, or whatever. The what, 2 white blue or 2 blue white. It might be 1 or 2 of in a deck, but I highly doubt it'll see play. And Ye Olde Fencing Ace from Return to Ravnica, 1 and a white for a 1/1 double striker. Um, Probably won't go in white weenie decks because its base stat line is just a 1/1. But I always loved the art on Fencing Ace. He is clearly an ace. We got a rare wild card, so not super exciting here. But I know there are some cards we will definitely be needing from Core Set 2020. Ooh, the old Vor's Claw from, I believe this was Avacyn. 4 double green for a 7/7 vanilla. Again, sealed and limited bomb. Maniacal Rage, I think we already have that. 1 in a red enchantment. Enchant creature gets +2/+, you can't block. Uh, Glaring Aegis, 1 white enchant or enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That's actually not terrible. An enchant creature gets +1/+3. Actually, I don't mind this card. Um, Being able to 1 mana tap something is nice for the turn. Might be able to help you push through damage. And giving your enchanted creature a little more strength and a bigger booty is always nice. Pacifism, 1 in a white enchant creature can attack or block. Kind of like a poor man's Seal Away, but you know what? Sometimes pacifism gets the job done. Soul Salvager, 2 in a black sorcery. Return 2 target creatures from the graveyard to your hand. Nothing too fancy. Not some rare effect. I will say I dig the art on it though. It looks very devious, very sexy. Spectral Sailor, 1 mana, 1/1 flash flying pirate. 4 mana, draw a card. I could actually see this doing a little bit of work in the mono blue deck if that is still a deck at this point. Being able to draw later in the game is huge. Having flash is nice. And it flies. Our second rare. Lotus Field. There's a lot I want to say about this card. Not too much relevant for this video though. Land, hexproof. When it enters play tapped. When it comes into play, you have to sack 2 lands. It does add 3 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. Some of the issues I have with this card. 1, it does have hexproof, so it is protection from things such as Field of Ruin, which is nice, and a few other cards. But the issue is having to sack 2 lands and have this come into play tap. So let's say you play this on curve turn 3. You've wiped your entire turn with a Lotus Field. Doesn't seem very strong. Getting 3 of any 1 color is nice. There's definitely some upside to that. Overall though, I don't necessarily love this card. The idea is great. The giving it hexproof I think will definitely help it potentially see play, but it card's kind of spooky to me. I don't necessarily love it. But not bad. Okay, we got Act of Treason, which I believe is currently in Standard. We have Befuddle, which I also believe is currently in Standard. Prism Might. 2 mana, 2/1 Golem. 2 mana. Pay 2 mana. Add any mana to your mana pool. Well, it does filter. It is a beater, but a 2-for-1 trade is never good when it comes to mana. Sage Road Denizen, I believe another Return to Ravnica block set card. 2 in a blue for a 2/3 wizard. Whenever another blue creature enters the battlefield under your control, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard, or as it's known, mills. This, if they have another popper event and they have the one that you can tap it to make your opponent mill, I think this thing pushes that deck even more over the top. Natural End, excuse me. 2 in a green instant. Destroy target creature, or goddamn, artifact or enchantment. You gain 3 life. Overall, not bad. I think for 3 mana it costs a little much, but you are gaining 3 life, so there's going to be some games where that could be definitely relevant. Overall, I like it. I don't love it. Goblin Ringleader is a card I love for people who know me personally. Legacy Goblins, hit me up. So we got 3 in a red for a 2/2 Goblin with haste. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all goblins revealed this way into your hand and the rest onto the bottom of your library. This card is bananas for a few reasons. 1, you play it for 4 mana, you get a 2/2 haster. Let's say you hit 4 goblins. You've now refilled your hand with creatures. Amazing. Sometimes Goblin Ringleader coming into play hitting 0 cards. That's fine too. Sometimes shoving all the lands to the bottom of your deck or artifacts and enchantments you don't need at that time is good. Overall, Goblin Ringleader, great card. Hopefully standard goblins can become a deck because I love goblins. Vengeful Warchief, 4 and a black for a 4/4 Orc Warrior. Whenever you lose life for the first time each turn, he gains a 1/1 counter. Well, seeing it how it has to be the first life lost ever return, I'm gonna say hard pass. And our rare. Dungeon Geist. Okay, now I know earlier, or In the other video, I said I would not play Dungeon Geist. Let's talk about Dungeon Geist here. 2 double blue for a 3/3 flyer spirit. That's pretty good. We currently, I believe, still have some spirits in standard, so this could definitely go into the spirit deck. Whenever Dungeon Geist enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It does not untap as long as you have Dungeon Geist on the battlefield. Dungeon Geist is not necessarily a bad card. Being able to tap down their biggest creature permanently, a la Hydroid Krasis, is super good. My issue is with it being a 3/3, it does die to things currently, such as Lightning Strike. So it definitely, and Wizard's Lightning, so it does have some issues there. But overall, it's not a bad card. A 3/3 flyer is always nice. Come down on curve, tapping something pretty much permanently is cool. I don't mind the card, but being able to just kill it and get their untap back is kind of lame. We've discussed Soul Salvage. We've discussed Befuddle. Keldon Raider, I think this is a new one. 2 double red. When it enters the battlefield, you can discard a card to draw a card. Not terrible. Could be good in something like Sealed. A 4/3 stat line is fine for what it does. Overall, fine card. Griffin Protector. 3 and a white for a 2/3 Griffin that flies. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+1 till the end of the turn. I don't like stuff like this. If it's not a permanent buff, I don't love it. And especially in something like Limited or Sealed, he's probably coming down. The next turn he's maybe getting another +1/+1. Not good enough. Reprint of Shock. I'm okay with Shock being around. I think when it comes to burn spells, Shock and Lightning Strike should just be the permanent go-to cards for burn always. Blight Beetle we discussed, which I think I do love. Ember Hall. Mountain for a 2/2 Goblin. Sack it to deal 2 damage to any target. Don't let this card fool you. Being a built-in shock is fine. Yes, you are paying 3 mana for it, but you figure if you attack with this once and throw him for 2, for 3 mana you did get 4 damage in. It could go on longer. Being able to sack himself in response to a kill spell is also good. Ember Hauler. Look out for him. An Icon of Ancestries. 3 mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. We'll say goblins. 3 tap. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type, so goblins, from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. Okay. I do like stuff like this. Being able to sift through your deck for a certain creature type is good. My problem is, to initially get value out of it, you're paying 3 to cast it, 3 to tap it, so you're putting 6 mana into it. Yes, you do get the +1/+1 of the creature chosen type, but at the same time, like, for 3 mana, that's nice. Very rarely, though, I think will be great. I think the card is a little slow. I would not be surprised if this did see play, though. Again, Anthem effect at 3 mana is fine. Normally we like him at 2. A lot of times we get him at 4. So for 3 mana, I think that's good. It's an artifact, so it can go into every deck humanly possible. And it does allow for those decks to grind a little bit versus things like Control, where late in the game you're just like, well, I'm out of cards in hand, let's try to draw something. Overall, not a bad rare. You might see me use it if we end up building standard Gobos. Okay, so another common. It's okay. I think we still have more than enough, though. Holy Indenter we talked about. Greenwood Sentinel we already have. 2 mana, 2/2 Vigilance. Winged Words. 2 and a blue sorcery. The spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature with flying, so it's potentially 2 mana. Draw 2 cards. So it's essentially either a reprint of Divination. I don't know if this card necessarily replaces something like Chart the Course, just because this is not going to always be 2 mana like that one is. But at the same time, draw spells can be nice. I think 3 mana to draw 2 is about the average for what we get. So it's just whatever. Angelic Gift. I think this was also from Avacyn. 1 and a white enchantment, draw a card, creature is flying. Honestly, I like stuff like this. The problem with this card, though, is that it doesn't necessarily do anything, but being able to give something like your Carnage Tyrant flying is huge. Not only is the Trapple irrelevant then, but you're just punching them in the dome over and over again. So, effects like these, don't let them fool you. They can be very, very strong. Empyrean Eagle. 1 white and a blue for a 2/3 bird spirit that flies. Other creatures with flying get +1/+1. Honestly, I don't mind that much. It is a spirit, so you could put that in the spirits deck. It's a cool themed card. I don't think it'll see much constructed play. But, again, an Anthem effect at 3, very good. Howling Giant. 5 double green for a 5/5 giant druid with reach. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 2/2 green wolves. Okay, so for 7 mana, You're getting 9 power across the board. It does have reach. Will this see constructed play? Probably not. This thing in limited and sealed though, oh my. This card could single-handedly swing a game by itself. I think this card is fantastic. Plus I love the art on it. It's got the 2 dogs there and that's pretty cool. What do we got for the rare? Okay, so Chandra's Awakening Inferno, our first mythic from Core 2020, arguably one of the better walkers in the set. 4 double red for a 6 loyalty planeswalker that cannot be countered. I'm going to tell you right now, cannot be countered. Redonkulous. +2. Each opponent gets an emblem with at the beginning of your upkeep. This emblem deals 1 to you. The interesting thing is this thing ticks up to get the emblem. Amazing. At first I looked at this card and I thought, you know what? That might be slow. No, no, no. Giving Planeswalker decks the ability to win by just slowly melting your face off? Very good. -3, it deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. That I don't necessarily love as much. I feel like if you're playing it at 6 mana as a board wipe, you're probably already in a really rough spot. Not saying that can't help you, but it does seem a little late. -X, deal X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If a permanent dealt damage this way is or would be destroyed this turn, exile instead. Okay, so for something like this, come into play, melt a walker, that could be huge, and it can't be countered, which is huge. +2 to continually give your opponent emblems, -3 to potentially board wipe. At first I didn't like this card. I feel like I'm wrong. I feel like this card's actually very, very good. I think this thing will see play. As it is right now, I think this could slot into the Jeskai decks. It could go into the Ralzarek combo decks just as kind of a way to give you reach. It also gives that deck something it doesn't have in a solid potential board wipe and a really strong removal spell. Overall, I think Chandra Awakened Inferno will definitely be seeing some play somewhere. So the Sage Row we've discussed. A Baroni Vampire, 2 and a black for a 3/2. Pass. We've talked about the Sentinel Metropolis Spite, another old school Return to Ravnica card, 1 and a blue for a 1/2 flying fairy rogue. 1 blue, it gets +1, -1 until the end of the turn. I don't love it, but for something like sealed or limited, being able to pop for 2 every turn could be nice. Frilled Sea Serpent, 4 double blue for a 4/6 serpent, 5 and 2 blue, can't be blocked this turn. Limited all-star, trash otherwise. Ancestral Blade, 1 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then attach the blade to it. 1 equip cost, it gets a +1/+1. So essentially for 2 mana you're getting a 2/2. Not terrible. Equipping for 1 I think is also nice. Will it see competitive play? I would assume not, but I could be wrong. And the rare, Repeated Reverberation. 2 and 2 red for an instant. When you next cast an instant spell, cast a sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, copy that spell or ability twice. You may choose new targets. I always liked things like copy effects and stuff like that. My issue with this is when you have to activate the instant or sorcery or activate the loyalty ability. So even though it is sort of an instant, it might not be as instant as you'd like it to be. I don't like stuff like this. I always feel like these cards are trapped because when you draw them with no cards in your hand, they're just absolutely dead. I don't like this card. There could be some really sweet shenanigans with it though. Let's say you're in a Jeskai deck and you go, well, Ralzarek copying my next spell. Okay, I'll go out, or I'll play an opt, copy the opt, do this to copy it 2 more times. So you're getting a bunch of triggers off the Ral. This could be an interesting way to end the game there, but overall, Repeated Reverberation, not necessarily on our to-play list. Goblin Bird Grabber. 1 and a red for a 2/1 goblin. 1 red. It gains flying until the end of the turn. Activate this only if you control a creature with flying. Great flavor. Love the art. I love the flavor text. It opens my mouth to catch the bugs. But overall, card's going to be a hard pass for me. Another Baroni Vampire, another Angelic Gift. We've discussed the Metropolis Sprite. Octoprophet. 3 and a blue for a 3/3 octopus enters the battlefield. Scry 2. Well, giving more octopus to the Octopi Tribal Overall, though, hard pass for me. Season of Growth. 1 and a green enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. I like that. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw 1. That actually seems pretty okay. I know there's not a ton of cards that necessarily target, but this is definitely something to be brewed around. And who knows, maybe with whatever comes after 2020 here, or Core 2020 I should say, this might be really, really good. So keep your eye out for Season of Growth. Effects like that are normally really strong. Rarely used right, though. And our next rare is Artemis All-Seeing. 3 in triple blue for a 4/5 legendary Sphinx with flying that has the ability to, in a blue, tap, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So not terrible, but not being able to attack with it and get the effect off it. Sort of lame. Whenever Artemis All-Seeing deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game. Wow. Okay. So it's a very interesting win con card. Okay. Because it's CMC and not just different mana costs in general, this is a little harder, seeing that you have to have a full hand of 6 cards in your hand. Theoretically, 1 can be a land, so I guess 5 in a land. But overall, I think this card is more cute than good. But anytime there's something that says that player loses the game, people try to brew with it, so be prepared for it. Okay, so we got another Prismarine here. We have a Pack Mastiff. 1 in a red for a 2/2 Hound. 1 in a red. Each creature named Hound or Pack Mastiff gets +1/+0. Okay, that's kind of a joke. Moat Piranhas. 1 in a blue for a 3/3 Defender Fish. At least the art is spooky. We've already talked about Raise the Alarms, just a good instant speed. Token Producer, 1 in a white, instant speed. Create 2 1/1 tokens, that's fine. Patron Marcher. 4 mana, 3/3 Artifact Golem. When it enters a battlefield, search your library for a card with the same name as another creature you control, reveal it, and put it into your hand. That seems kind of interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, being able to cast this the turn after you cast, let's say, a Hydroid Krasis to get a Hydroid Krasis does seem really good. The stats, I guess, are okay, speaking that it's a 4 mana 3/3 that replaces itself. Could be interesting. I don't know how much play it will actually see, but it doesn't seem that bad. Ooh, Loaming Shaman. I think this card came way back out in Dissension. 2 in a green, 3/2 Centaur. Hey, it's only an uncommon now. It used to be a rare. When it enters a battlefield, target player shuffles any number of target cards from their graveyard into their library. Interesting card, kind of a way to get some of your stuff back, potentially give your opponent some of your stuff back. I don't really know how I feel about this card in Standard right now. It's just kind of whatever. Our next rare here is Gargos, Vicious Watcher. 3 triple green for an 8/7 Vigilance Hydra. Okay, so far I'm liking the mana cost to power toughness. That's nice. Vigilance is always nice. Hydras cost you 4 less to cast. That's actually usually important because most Hydras are green, green, red X, green, green X, green X. So being able to get a free 4 mana, so for 1 mana, or essentially 1 green, you're at least getting a 4/4 Hydra if it has X in its cost. Whenever a creature you control becomes target of a spell, it fights up to 1 creature you don't control. It doesn't say your opponent has to target. This card actually seems pretty sweet. This could be a very interesting card that breaks open mid-range decks. Having this thing continually punch other things in the head. I'm going to say I like the Vicious Watcher. That card, be on the lookout for it. Okay, so we have Prismite again. We have Negate. Negate's coming back. Negate is fine. Thicket Crasher. 3 in a green for a 4/3 Trample. Elemental Rhino. Other elementals have Trample. Okay, so we have a very elemental theme here. I don't necessarily love the elemental theme. It's kind of cute, I guess. Power toughness wise, I guess the card is okay. It's not great. It's definitely something you build around. It could be very good for sealed or limited. Reckless Airstrike. 1 red sorcery. Choose 1. Destroy an artifact, so that's pretty fair. Or deal 3 damage to a creature with flying. So sideboard card at best. Love the art. Love the flavor text. I have a great idea. Squad Captain. 4 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier with vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 on each other creature you control. I do not like this card. 5 mana 2/2 that's potentially completely dead on a dead board. We're going to hard pass on that. Vampire of the Dire Moon. 1 mana, 1/1 vampire with Death Touch and Lifelink. I like it. Very simple. Very solid overall, though. I like its stats. It does 2 things for 1 mana. That's really good. That's like a super baby Vampire Nighthawk. I approve. Colossal Hammer, the joke of the set. 1 mana, equipment, equipped for 8. Equipped creature gets a +10/+10 and loses flying. There are some people trying to brew with this in Modern and other Eternal formats and just overall kitchen top fun. While I don't love the card, if you can find ways to cheat this onto things, giving something +10 is always great. And we get another Hydra. I will say again, I think this card is fantastic. Reading the stat line on it, the abilities on it, it does seem very good. Maybe we'll get a nice mono green ramp deck starring a ton of Hydras. Okay, so we got reduced to ash. I think this is from the original Ravnica, or no, Innistrad. 4 and a red. Deal 5 damage to a creature. If it would die this turn, exile it instead. Very overcost for what it does. The Epicure of Blood, we have that in Standard currently. Air Elemental is currently in Standard, so is the Captivating Gyre, so hopefully our Rare or Mythic can save us. Okay, it saved us. Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord. 2 in a black, comes into play with 4 loyalty, Legendary Planeswalker Serene. I will say though, I'm not a super big fan of this art. Now that that's out of the way, target +1, target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink. If it's a vampire, it also gets a 1/1 counter on it. Really good for Vampire Tribal. Really good otherwise, too. Being able to give something like your Hydroid Krasis lifelink seems really good, especially once you put 6, 7, 8, 9 counters on it. I approve of that. +1, you may sacrifice a vampire. When you do, Sorin deals 3 damage to any target. You gain 3 life. So it's kind of like a Lightning Helix at the cost of sacking your creature. I will say, though, there's a ton of cards that have, when this dude is sacked, it does something else. So this could be something that could be very useful for a lot of decks. -3, you may put a vampire creature from your hand onto the battlefield. The reason why I like that ability so much is 1, you can use his ultimate the turn he comes into play. Number 2, you can do shenanigans stuff with this, such as using changelings because they're vampires. I like this Sorin. I don't know if it'll see a ton of play. Vampire Tribal does seem very strong right now. This is a card to definitely watch out for. I'm very glad our mythics have been super solid so far. I wasn't expecting much from our mythic slot. Turns out I was wrong. Feral Invocation. 2 and a green flash enchantment. Target creature gets +2/+2. Not too bad. I do know that the green-white enchantment deck is still sort of running around, so that card seems like a good fit for it. Cloudkin Seer. 2 and a blue for a 2/1 flying elemental wizard. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Sealed All-Star. I don't think it'll see play anywhere else. Another bony Maroni vampire here, whatever. Um, Dagger Sail Aeronaut. 3 and a red for a 3/2 goblin. When it's your turn, it has flying. The art's cute. Again, good flavor text. Coming down is the best part. Vial of Dragonfire from Khans of Tarkir. 2 mana in artifact, 2 and tap it to deal 2 damage to a creature. I do not love this card. You should not love this card. It's just a card. We've talked about the Marcher, which again could do something. Loaming Shaman is weird. And a mythic rare wild card. I think that definitely redeemed the pack there, speaking that some of these walkers out of this new set are pretty strong, at least to us. We have Shock, we've got the Vorse Claw, we got the Griffin Protector, Gouging Vulture, or Gorging Vulture, excuse me. 2 and a black for a 2/2 flying bird. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. You gain 1 life for each creature put this way. I actually like that. I know I was talking a little smack about it earlier, not sure what it did. Being a mill card, there is some mill decks. I forgot what the name of the mechanic is from Ravnica Allegiance. Be on the lookout for this card. This might actually see some play because it gains you life and mills your deck. Pacifism we've discussed. Woodland Champion, 1 and a green for a 2/2 Elf Scout. Whenever 1 or more tokens into the battlefield, you put that many 1/1 counters on Woodland Champion. That doesn't seem too awful. Even its baseline of a 2 mana 2/2 seems okay. It's an elf, so it's technically in the correct tribal. It's a good card. Needing to have tokens could make it kind of weak, but this could be one of those cards that could snowball out of control very quickly. And our rare is the ye old Grafdigger's Cage from Dark Ascension, 1 mana artifact. Creatures, cards in graveyards and libraries cannot enter the battlefield. Now you may ask yourself, why is that special? Being able to shut things off like Command the Dreadhorde for 1 mana, pretty good. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries, so this shuts off things like Jumpstart. Very interesting card. I will say it's a strong hate piece printed for standard. Maybe almost too strong seeing as how it's 1 mana. There is a ton of answers for it, but usually they're pretty good at printing hosers, and that one seems awfully strong. For new common here we have Blade Brand. 1 and a black instant. Target creature gains death touch. Oh, this is just a reprint draw card. Well, whatever. Aether Gust. 1 and a blue. Choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Put it back on top of its owner's library. Okay, so we were right in the fact that they were printing color hate cards for opposing colors. Well, I don't know if I love it. Being able to put stuff on the bottom is nice. Being able to put stuff back on top to kind of mess with their draws is good too. Clearly not a main board card, probably just a sideboard card. Could see some play though. Loyal Pegasus, a card that I absolutely love. 1 mana, 2/1 flying, can't attack or block alone. Normally the decks that want these aren't playing very little creatures anyway, so good on you, Pegasus. Our next rare is Agent of Treachery. 5 and 2 blue for a 2/3 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, you gain control of a permanent. That's actually pretty spicy. I think 7's a little much, speaking that this card dies to things like Lightning Strike. That's just my opinion. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. So very interesting card idea. I think 7 mana is way too much. Being able to steal a permanent does seem nice, especially because you permanently gain control of it. Um, maybe a 1 in control decks at best. Maybe a weird ramp deck. Overall, probably not going to see much play. The Boreal Elemental that we were discussing earlier. 4 and a blue for a 3/4 flyer. Spells your opponent's cost to target this cost 2 more. Overall, it's just an okay card. I think at 5 mana it's a little much. Boneclad Necromancer. 3 and double black for a 3/3 human wizard. When it enters a battlefield, exile target creature from a graveyard to create a 2/2 zombie. I don't mind that. That could potentially be a kind of a cute hoser for something like Arclight. Problem is it is 5 mana, so it definitely brings down the relevancy of that card. Ye Old Mammoth Spider. 4 and a green for a 3/5 spider with reach. Really not that great. Disenchant, a card I love. Very simple. 1 and a white, destroy an artifact or enchantment. Super straight to the point. Sanitarium Skeleton. 1 black for a 1/2. 2 and a black. Return it from your graveyard to your hand. His mind was lost before his flesh. I will say this has some of the best art I have seen in a very long time. Kev Walker normally does a lot of great art. I feel like this art is great. Card itself is not good. Our first uncommon Planeswalker, Chandra Novus Pyromancer. I hope there's not more uncommon walkers, because if we only pulled this so far, I'm going to be real sad. 3 in a red. Legendary Chandra comes into play with 5 loyalty. +1 elementals get +2, +0. Okay. -1 add 2 red. Okay. -2 deal 2 damage to any target. Overall, I feel this card's very lukewarm. Clearly, it goes with the elemental support. The -1 to add 2 seems kind of weak. The -2 to ping 2 is just whatever. Apostle of Purifying Light. 1 and a white for a 2/1 pro black. 2 mana, exile target card from a graveyard. That's not terrible. It does dodge most of the good removal in standard right now. My only issue is 2 mana to exile a card is very slow, very mana intensive. Another Anthem effect. We got one of these earlier. We're not necessarily the super big fan of it, but a 3 mana Anthem is okay. We've discussed that. The Marauder's Axe. 2 mana equipment. +2, +0, and 2 to equip. Very vanilla. Chandra's Outrage. 2 and 2 red. Deals 4 damage to a creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. Could be good for sealed. I don't think it'll see much play in constructed. Growth Cycle. 1 and a green. Target creature gains +3/+3. It gets an additional +2 for each cycle growth. See, I like cards like this. They're always a trap, but I like them. Overall, I don't think it'll see play just because it is 2 mana to pump for 3. Fathom Fleet Cutthroater. 3 and a black for a 3/3. When it enters a battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls does dealt damage, so it rewards you for playing Magic properly. Overall, card does feel a little weak though. especially with things like Ravenous Chupacabra running around. That just seems whatever. Tomebound Lich. 1 blue and a black for a 1/3 Death Touch lifelink zombie wizard. When it enters the battlefield or deals damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. So it's got a built-in loot effect. It is very slow. The Death Touch is kind of a way to kind of make it push damage through, but I don't think it'll see much play. Gauntlets of Light. 2 and a white. Enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +0/+2 and decides combat damage through its toughness rather than its power. Enchant creature has 2 and a white. Untap this creature. This card seems like it's going to do something just because it has to untap the creature itself. This could be very interesting. And our rare is Leyline of Combustion. 2 and double red for an enchantment. If Leyline of Combustion is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Most Leylines, not most, all Leylines actually do that. What's the effect on it do? Whenever you and or at least one permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, deal 2 damage to that player. Okay. What's it good against? It could potentially melt out burn, hurt them back. Could be good versus the control decks. Hey, you go to kill my creature, E2 in the process. I like it. Clearly, though, at 4 mana, it's slow. If it's in your opening hand, it's perfectly on curve. I'm just going to say I don't love it, though. I think at 4 mana, it is very, very slow. Got another Goblin Bird Grabber, the Befuddle. Okay, so Dress is still in standard again. Whew, that makes me happy. I love Dress. I think Dress right now is still a good card. Silverback Shaman and Raise the Alarm we have already. Scuttlemutt, 3 mana, 2/2 Artifact Scarecrow. Tap to add a color of any mana. Tap, target creature becomes a color or colors of your choice until end of turn. Okay, so very interesting with the cards that give things like the creature we had earlier that protects from white. Make a creature white, attack into it. Overall, okay card. Ogre Siegebreaker. 2 red-black for a 4/3 Ogre Berserker. 2 a black and a red. Destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. Meh. Again, I hate cards that like if it was dealt damage already, so they're just whatever. Leyline of Sanctity. This is the funniest card in this set. 2 and 2 white. If it's in your opening hand, you play it. You have hexproof. Dunks on red. Potentially dunks on control decks with them not being able to Thought Erasure you, not being able to duress you. Overall, again, another strong Hoser card. I was very shocked to see how many Hoser cards are actually coming out of this set. Common and uncommon wild card. I call it now. We're going to get a rare mythic there just to LOL. Dawning Angel, 4 and a white for a 3/2 Angel Flyer. When it comes into play, you gain 4 life. Very blah, very bland. Okay for constructed because it flies. I think everything else in this pack we've had.
Until we achieve peace, we must fight for a
Ajani, Strength of the Pride. 2 double white for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker Ajani. +1, you gain life equal to the number of creatures plus the number of Planeswalkers you control. I actually don't mind that plus. I think right now with a lot of the Planeswalker decks running around, ticking up 1 to gain 4 or 5 life every turn seems really ridiculous. -2, create a 2/2 White Cat Soldier named Johnny's Pride Mage with whenever you gain life you put counters on it. See, I love the fact that he makes a token of a creature that already exists. I think that is absolutely awesome. 0, if you have at least 15 life or more, then your starting total life, exile a Johnny's Strength of the Pride, and each artifact and creature your opponent controls. Oh wow. Okay, so being able to play this, gain life off it, even if it only has 1 counter, being able to go, exile your board. That seems pretty neat. The art on it's very slick. Overall, I do like this card. Do I think it sees play? Probably not a ton, but the life gain on it, being able to make a very passive deck that just gains life, I think that card could be the high-end curve for it. Okay, we got a Scorch Spitter. 1 mana, 1/1 Elemental Lizard. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to a target player or planeswalker. Overall, it's just okay. Not super great. Wolf Rider's Saddle. 3 and a green for a green equipment artifact. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 wolf and then attach the saddle to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and can't be blocked by one or more creatures. Okay, so essentially for 4 mana you're getting a 3/3 that you can continually re-equip this to just to get some more advantage out of it. It's okay, it's kind of slow. I think the 3 to equip is a little much. Blood-Soaked Altar, I like the art. 4 and double black for an artifact. Tap, pay 2 life, discard a card, and sacrifice creatures. That's all part of the cost. Create a 5/5 creature token with flying activated at sorcery speed. I'm going to hard pass on this. I think it's 6 mana, plus 2 life, plus a card, plus a creature to potentially get a 5/5. Not worth it. Another Dungeon Geist. I think the game is telling me something. So we're going to start brewing blue-white Tempo Spirits just because I feel like that's what the game wants. Bone to Ash. I think it's already in Standard, but if not, 2 double blue. Instant counters. Creature, draw a card. It's just okay. I hate counter spells like this because they're so narrow. We've talked about Master Splicer. Now this has a very new Phyrexia slash Scars of Mirrodin feel to it. I swear, if we're going back to that, that would make me a very happy boy. 3 and a white, Human Artificer 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 golem. All your golems get +1/+1. So for 5 mana, you're getting 3/4/5 power. You're getting 2 bodies out of it. That's actually not terrible. And again, that artwork is fantastic. Oh, Chippy, good job. That is sexy. Gruesome Scourger, 3 and double black for a 3/3 Orc Warrior. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target opponent or planeswalker equal to the number of creatures you control. I never like stuff like this just because sometimes on a clear board coming into ping for 1 isn't necessarily always well worth it. Overall, I think we got a pass. And our rare is Brought Back, double white, instant. Choose up to 2 permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there this turn, return them to the battlefield tap. This, okay. It's a card I like based on the fact that it's a very reactive way to deal with a board wipe. Hey, I'm going to Elder Spell, kill 2 of your walkers. Cool, end of your turn, I'll bring 2 back. Seems really strong. Interest play tapped, of course, for things like walkers, maybe even creatures. It doesn't necessarily matter because it is an instant you can play it at the end of their turn to gain the most value out of it. Problem is, 1, there's a lot of exile effects thanks to things like Settle the Wreckage, Seal Away, Vraska's Contempt, that this card gets dunked on and gets dodged around. The other thing I have a problem with this is that sometimes it's going to sit in your hand for a very long time and do little to nothing, and there's no value to be had from it. Overall, I'm going to say Brought Back. If I had to go on a 1 to 10 scale for the first time we're going to do this, it's a solid 5. It does some things. Sometimes it does nothing. That's just the nature of the beast for that card. Sleep Paralysis. 3 and a blue for an enchant creature aura. Enchanted creature becomes tapped. It doesn't untap. That's okay. I think for 4 mana it's a little much at that point. You'd rather just have a kill spell. Healer of the Glade. 1 mana, 1/2 elemental. When it comes into play, you gain 3 life. I actually don't mind that. I think as a Hoser versus Burn, it gives you a blocker and 3 life is pretty good. We've talked about. Yield Disfigure. One of my more favorite removal spells for a format like Legacy. 1 mana, instant speed, target creature gets -2/-2. You'd be shocked how many times the -2 is relevant. It's also good versus things like Burn, being able to preemptively hit their creatures as soon as they hit the board. This will probably help replace things like Moment of Craving, depending on if decks like Burn and Tokens stay around. Angel of Vitality, 2 and a white for a 2/2 flying angel. If you would gain life, you gain that much +1. So let's say you gain 5 life, you gain 6. She gets +2/+2 as long as you have 25 or more life. So she could either be a 3 mana 4/4 flyer or 3 mana 2/2. Overall, I don't mind this card. I think on curve it's good. I think it's good for sealed. It could very well see some play in the weird mono white life gain decks we have. Overall, good card. I actually think you will see that somewhere. Shared Summons. 3 green instant. Search your library for 2 creature cards with 2 different names. Reveal them, put them in your hand. I like the fact that it is instant speed. My problem is it only puts them in your hand. I feel like that's a little slow for 5. I don't love it. People might try it. Again, I don't love it. Gift of Paradise is coming back, this time as a common, very fascinating. Feral Abomination, 5 in a black for a 5/5 Death Touch Thrall. I actually don't mind that. I think for sealed, again, another bomb just because it is Death Touch. We've talked about the Fang. Devout Decree 1 and a white. Exile target creature or planeswalker that's black or red. Scry 1. Okay, I think this card is fantastic. A couple of reasons why. One, it deals with things like Nicol Bolas, both of them. It deals with Angrath. It deals with the new Chandra that's coming out. It deals with Ralzarek. It deals with Liliana. For 2 mana at sorcery speed, yes, they're going to get their effect once, but overall, something like this, we'll see a ton of sideboard play, I'm sure. I love, love, love Devout Decree. Sky Knight Vanguard. A red and a white for a 1/2 flyer, human knight. Whenever it attacks, it creates a 1/1 white soldier tapped and attacking. That actually seems very amazingly strong. Having a little army in the can for 2 mana, I would look out for this card. I think that that's really good. And our rare is Masterful Replication. 5 and a blue. Instant speed. Choose 1. Create 2 3/3 colorless golem artifact tokens. So for 6 mana, you're getting 6 power. Or choose target artifact you control. Every other artifact becomes a copy. Oh my, that seems really, really strong with something like the Saheeli Raya to continually push out tokens. Using this to just make a whole army of something. That's pretty cute. It is cute. I don't think it's good. I like it though. I like it though. Ripscale Predator. 4 double red for a 6/5 dinosaur with menace. Limited bomb. We've talked about another Khan's artifact. Heart Piercer Bow. 2 mana equipment. Equips for 1. Whenever a creature attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature. That's not that good. Gross. Blood Burglar. 1 and a black for a 2/2 as long as it's your turn and has lifelink. It's okay. And a rare. Da-da-da-da, Leyline of Abundance, 2 and 2 green. If it's in your opening hand, it starts in play. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, it does add an additional green, so your Llanowar Elves taps for 2 green now instead of just 1. 6 and 2 green, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. This is going to be brewed around a lot. There's a whole bunch of very interesting, corny little combo decks. Overall, I think that card is actually going to see some play just because it's weird. It's got a very odd effect. Leafkin Druid, 1 and a green, Elemental Druid 0/3, taps for green if you control 4 more creatures, taps for 2 instead, very blah. Everything else here we've actually talked about. And our rare is Zephrys Skyblade, 4 and 3 white for a 7/7 legendary angel. You may pay 1 white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying, so a little steep. Rather than pay this card's mana cost, flying lifelink for 7 other creatures you control are indestructible. Very interesting card. As for having to tap flyers, I don't necessarily love it, but even at 7 mana, 7/7 flying lifelink is fine. Giving your other creatures indestructibility by that point in the game might be a little irrelevant. Not super fantastic overall though. And for our last pack of 2020, what are we getting? Leafkin Druid we've talked about. Okay, a lot of stuff we've talked about, at least on this video. Chandra Spitfire, 2 and a red, 1/3 elemental flying. Whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, Chandra's Spitfire gets +3/+0. I don't like it. Warden of Evos Isle, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 flying bird wizard. Creatures with flying cost you 1 less to cast. That's okay. I think for draft and stuff like that, that's going to make a very build-aroundable ability. And our last rare, Field of the Dead. When it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped. Taps for a colorless. Whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie token creature. I don't know if I necessarily love this land because it has to be 7 or more lands with different names, but overall, if there is something interesting to brew with this, like a Scapeshift deck, this could absolutely just blow the game out. Scapeshift, bring in 7 different lands, triggers 7 different 2/2 zombies. Very good. Overall, though, those were our packs. I hope you enjoyed it. We haven't done a pack opening video here yet. Normally we save these for the streams. If you enjoyed the pack opening, please leave a thumb up. Comment down below if you thought any of my judgments on the cards were incorrect. Subscribe to the channel to get some content when we occasionally upload it. And with that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a good one.